So today, what I wanted to talk about is, how you can literally save at least a couple of hours a week using the tools in SkySlope. My previous company, we were the first ones to launch SkySlope in the state of Maine. We did it in 2015. And some of the feedback we've been getting from the agents now from the launch that you guys had is the same exact feedback that we had then. And we did a lot of testing because I used to be in charge of both the technology and training. So I was in charge of rolling out all of the new tech and making sure that everyone did it. And so a big part of that was doing a lot of split testing. So what we found is that agents always felt that it took about 45 minutes to enter a file. And the reality of the situation, if we just organize it in the right framework, is that it takes 6 to 7 minutes to enter a file. So that's your first time savings. So the first time savings is kind of the preparation for entering a file. And I was just meeting with another agent on that individually, and I'm happy to meet with anybody individually who has questions about SkySlope. Feel free to send them to me. We can connect via Zoom. Anything that we need to do is perfectly fine. So the first step is that everything should start with the MLS. So I learned some stuff from my meeting this morning that I was not aware of. So in some of the offices, now a lot of people are having the TMAs enter their stuff into the MLS, and I think that's done here in the Auburn office frequently, and enter it into SkySlope. So what we need to switch there is I'm learning that they're turning everything in and it's going into SkySlope first and then into the MLS. So the first thing we need to do is we need it to go into the MLS first, because there are things within SkySlope. It's actually connected to the MLS. So when you put in the MLS number, it fills out a lot of stuff for you. And the reason that we're talking about SkySlope right now so much is that it actually takes longer to put together everything, hand it off to the TMA and have them do it for you, and then you not be aware of the system and the other perks that go along with it that save you so much time, than it would for you to just go ahead and enter it in. If it only took you 6 to 7 minutes to enter a listing, wouldn't that be a lot quicker than the amount of stuff you have to do to send to them and then have to have emails back and forth? Just a thought. And you can do it whichever way you want. One of the reasons why we're trying to do that is that it's not, is that basically SkySlope is a time saver. All it did was automate what we used to do with paper. Back in the day when I didn't start till about 2006, and I was an assistant on a team for 4.5 years. And then I went out on my own. We used to put together all the paper, we'd turn it in with a big giant paper clip or, clippy thing, and then we'd get it back with the red pen of death with all the stuff that we had mixed, and that would take a while, because the reviewers are doing the stacks of paper and do their red pen thing, and then we have to take it all and, go get copies. And it was kind of annoying because they would actually mark on the documents with the red pen, and then for you to get something corrected, it just looked bad to your client. So what SkySlope has done is basically automate a lot of these processes, but they've built in features that are going to even save you time as you go. SkySlope will help you keep track of all your client contacts that you have with your client, because we're required to have a record of every contact we have with our client: email, text, phone, everything. We're required to do that. Right now, I'm seeing people create a gazillion folders in their email to try to accommodate that. You can actually do that through SkySlope in a quick and easy step that I'm going to show you to avoid that one. When you're on the go. Now, some people have an online storage system for their documents. So I use Dropbox. I use the paid version. It's like $99 a year. Personally, I've always liked having my own copy of everything in addition to SkySlope, but you don't have to. If you don't want to pay for an online storage system, SkySlope is your online storage system. So when you put the docs in there, and it's actually really quick to get the docs in there, they're available to you anywhere. So, you're on the road, the title company calls you and says, Kristen, I need that deed copy. I can just log into SkySlope on my phone, which is really, really cool. It's not an app. I just go to the browser on my phone, do skyslope.com. Pop in there. I can go to that transaction, that listing, whichever it is, the transaction at that point, go to the document folder, click on the deed, and click on email and send it straight to them. So it's really very, very handy for that kind of thing. Now, of course, I would have not do that like on the highway. I would pull off and do that somewhere else. But it also is kind of like an admin in a box for you. So without having to pay an assistant, it can be an assistant for you. And again, one of the reasons we're trying to get people to realize it is we're finding that people, and again, it's just kind of historically, especially in the market that we're sitting in right now, in the Auburn market, they're accustomed to having the admins do this type of thing for them, but not realizing that it's taking them more time to assemble everything and get it to the admin. So it's not that your admin work is being shifted back to you, it's that I want to free up your time. So it's been kind of funny that I'm hearing from people here, well, it takes me 45 minutes to get a listing in. I heard the same thing 3 years ago. And then after the training that we did, they're like, oh, never mind. It took me 7 minutes to do that. It took me 5 minutes to do that. So it starts with having all your paperwork together. And it doesn't matter if you're a person who likes to have paper, that's fine. I like paperless, so all of my stuff is going to be electronic. So in my case, I'm going to pull it up electronically. I'm going to have it there. I probably never printed out the paper to start with. For me, I start in ZipForm, in ZipForm Plus, and I'm going to type up my listing agreement with all the information that I have, and I'm going to just save it there. Now, I would bring it to the listing appointment on an iPad, but just replace the iPad with your folder, with your paperwork. So no matter whether you use paper or whether you don't use paper, you're going to start in ZipForm and type everything, because we really should not be fully handwriting listing agreements. It just solves a lot of problems to have it typed out so that it can be read by all parties. There's nothing worse than, you'll go through the listing, it goes under contract, or maybe the purchase and sale agreement was handwritten. Everything's fine until it's not, and then something goes wrong, and now we're in court trying to determine if that's an A or an E, or what number that is, and they're disagreeing on things. So type everything that you can. So take advantage of ZipForm Plus. So it starts with that. You're going to do your listing agreement there. Now you can choose to use DigiSign to do your listing agreement. DigiSign is built into this system, which is pretty handy. One of the cool things is, so I want to show you first, one of the ways that you're going to save yourself time is to make sure that you have your integration. Let me move this out of the way. Your integration with ZipForm set up in SkySlope. So that, to find out, you would just click on your name up here and choose My Account. And under the My Account tab, there is an Integrations tab at the top right. Now mine says enabled, but I'm going to click on that. If it said disabled, you click on it, and then you're just going to toggle this enabled switch on, which mine is on, and you're going to put your username for ZipForm Plus and your password for ZipForm in there, and then click Save. And once you do that, then it will give you a little green light that says, yes, you're all set up. The cool part about having that is that I can go over to Working Documents in here, and there's a ZipForm Plus tab. So again, everything that I do in ZipForm is instantly available to me here. I don't have to go to ZipForm, type up my listing agreement, download it, save it as a PDF, and upload it here. I can just do it straight away. Again, if you're using paper, no problem. I'm going to show you easy ways to use paper with this as well. But I just wanted to make sure everybody at least has this set up.
Question. Whereas I'm on a team, and I am entering all my stuff in SkySlope under my team leader's name. Is that correct? Because that's what I'm currently doing, not on my own SkySlope platform. That's a good question. So the question is, on a team, would you enter it under your own name or under the team name? That's something I will talk with Stacy about, because that's whatever the company does. Sure.
My preference is not. It depends. Did you have your own SkySlope account, or is there just one for your team?
I do, but I'm actually using it. Everything's being entered under her account. Okay.
So everything's being entered under that one account. One of the beauties of SkySlope is that it has a CoList feature. So my recommendation, just for compliance sake, is that everybody goes into their own, and then in the CoList feature, you would add every single agent that is listed on that agreement, whether it's a buyer agreement or a listing agreement, which often some teams might have 3 people listed on that or 4 people listed on that, it depends. And you list everybody. Only one person has to actually enter it into the system when you use the CoList feature. everybody who's listed there can see the docs and has access to the information they're allowed to have access to.
Okay, that sounds like so much better if I use my own platform.
Mm-hmm. But I want to double check, so I'm going to make a mental note of that, and I will double check with Stacy on how that's been done.
Okay.
Because we've been going over like the checklists, and those are in review right now to make sure that they're all kind of the best version they can be. The reason that I've always liked having everybody do their individuals is that teams don't always last. People break apart, and you need access to the things you were a part of. So I do like that. Oh, somebody's subscribing. Okay, but I will double check with that because I'd rather answer it on the company policy end. So I can put that in the training update email too once I find out the answer. Great question though. So setting this up, once you click here, everything that you do here. Now I don't like going through this create ZipForm transaction from SkySlope. I would rather start in ZipForm. The reason I do that is one of the things that we'll be rolling out a lot of training on in ZipForms as well. Is using a template in ZipForms. If I do the create ZipForm transaction here, I can't use a template. The reason I use the template, again, time savings, is that I have created a listing template, a buyer template, if you have land listing template, and it's going to already have all the forms that I need in ZipForm for me. And I've already pre-filled everything that's always the same. So when I get ready for a listing appointment, and I don't buy and sell right now at the moment, but when I did, I would go into ZipForm, start my listing, choose to apply my listing template, and my forms, the ones I needed, all populated for me with everything already filled in that was always the same for me, and it just saved a lot of time. I don't have to recreate the wheel and choose all the forms and do all that kind of stuff. So, but if I click on any particular transaction here, I have access to all of my forms. So when I do a listing, again, because I am paperless, I would come in here and I would, choose the forms that I need to have signed. I'm just going to choose the top 3. And I would just pop straight into DigiSign, and I can have them electronically signed right away. So that's one way that I would do it, but that's not really necessarily what today's class is about, but I want you to have that option. One of the beauties of SkySlope as well is they have 24/7 support for anything. So another time saver to you is don't sit here and try to figure something out. If you have any questions, just click on the little head of the woman up here with the headphones that's labeled support, and you can chat right away with them. I think it's just, sometimes it's easier to just call them. If you start a chat, I'm going to do just testing here. We'll see how long it takes them. And click chat with us. You could email them and say you didn't have time. You just wanted to email them a question and you go off on your appointment and get an answer later. You can do that. So here we go. You see how the minute that he answered, there's a call me button. So I could do that and have them call me. So if you didn't have it, but I do recommend, I will send everybody the direct phone number for support with SkySlope. I recommend putting it into your phone with SkySlope as the name, and then you can just click on it on your phone and give them a call. So please don't waste more than 2 minutes trying to figure out anything on SkySlope. Call support, they're usually great. The cool thing is if they can't answer your question, they're going to mail you a gift card to Starbucks, $5 gift card to Starbucks. So since I was tech support and training support for my previous agency, I called them a lot. So I had a whole stash of $5 Starbucks cards, but they're really, really good. If they don't get to the bottom of your problem, please let me know, because we want to kind of keep track of that as well. But they usually are really, really good. So please don't waste any time with that. All right, so I wanted to show you the integration, but let's get back to, I'm going to click on the main screen here. When you're entering a file, what makes the difference between someone thinking it takes 45 minutes and someone who can do it in 6 to 7 minutes? So it's really preparation. So whether you have all of your stuff electronically or whether you have it in a file folder, either way, it starts with just having that information in front of you. And one of the first things that I think is really handy to do is when you first get a client, you're going to either on your listing agreement, the bottom page that nobody fills out where it's got their contact information. So fill that out. Or if you have another form that you use, if you have a little checklist that you use that asks for their contact information, just make sure you have it and you have it in front of you. I do recommend, even if you have it written down, enter it into your phone. Put it into your phone contacts, because you want to make sure that you have, and label it right. When you enter your contact, your client, your seller client into there, label it as mobile when it's their mobile phone. Label it as home when it's their home, because that will help you if you need to text them, if you need to email them. Put all that information into your database right away. Whatever you sync with your phone, for some people it's just a matter of putting it straight into your phone. So it depends on what you use for your contacts. So that's where you start. Then that way you have everything you need at your fingertips, because that was the biggest complaint that I would hear. Well, it asked me for this and it asked me for that, and I had to go look it up and all that. Well, you shouldn't have to, because you just took the listing. So you've got your contact into your phone. That's your first time savings. Second time savings is, you got back, you went to your listing appointment, you got all your docs. Take a moment, take 2 minutes to look over your docs and double check them. Did I miss a checkbox? Are the seller property disclosures complete? And that's because these are some of the most common things that are going to come back to you once it's reviewed, and they're going to need something. So if taking that moment right then when you first have it is a lot easier. And I've done that before. I remember my very first time when I was on a team where I was the one meeting with the client to sign things, and I was so proud of myself. I should never get proud, because then something always goes wrong. I was so proud of myself, and I got done with it all, and the client left, and this is when we didn't have DigiSign, so they had driven to the office. I met with them, they signed everything, they went away, and I looked at it, and I forgot to get them to initial the other pages. But what do you do then? Called them right back, and said, you know what, can I follow you home? I will come over, and let's just get it signed. So taking that moment whether you've first gotten back or before you leave your listing appointment, let me take a minute or two. I just want to make sure we've got everything checked off here. And that way, there are going to be times on the seller property disclosures, and we were talking about this, Linda, before, where your client doesn't know everything. So another time savings is before your listing appointment, when you're confirming the appointment, email them a blank copy of the seller property disclosure form so that they have a little heads up, and they can maybe look up how much fuel they used, or ask the company that they used, or know the questions that you're going to ask them. So that it's like prep work will save you time. So having your file in front of you, whether you have it electronically or whether you have it as a paper file, have it in front of you. Have your contact information ready and in your phone. And that way, when you're coming here, we'll go ahead and we'll do this, and we just did one a little while ago. My little screen here may look a little bit different from yours because I'm an admin. You may have a create listing button. I do not. So I'm going to click on manage listings first. And listings are the easy ones because there's not a lot of documents. Transactions have a lot more. So instead of the 6 to 7 minutes, they can take about 10 minutes. But again, we have all the information in front of us. I'm going to click create listing. And again, it's not just the entering that's going to save you time, it's the functions of SkySlope that are going to save you time. This search for address is connected to both the MLS and to Google, but as we were talking about earlier, not every address in some northern New England is going to be in Google. So there may be times where you don't, but you can type the address in here. In my case, because I'm going to make up an address, I'm going to just X out of that. This is the important one, and this is why I say, get it put, whether you're doing it or whether your TMA does it, get it put into the MLS first, because that will save time in loading stuff up. It really will. So you can type in the MLS number, because once it's put in the MLS, then you have the MLS number, and you just kind of want that as well. You want all your information so that you can start with your marketing and start it off right and have everything put together.
And once you enter that MLS number, it'll auto-populate.
It's going to auto-populate the address, even I believe the listing date, the price. It's going to put a lot of this stuff in for you.
Yeah, here's the problem. I don't want to enter my listings into the MLS. I don't feel that is my job.
We've already talked about
right, and that's fine.
What I do is I take all the documents and scan them and enter them and sort them in SkySlope, and then staff enters it into MLS.
So you're entering into SkySlope and they're doing it in MLS.
Yes.
And is that working for you?
So far.
Okay. And if that's working for you, then that's fine. Some people weren't doing either of those, so they had to wait. So they were just turning it all in, and the TMAs were doing both.
No.
And that's perfectly fine.
I'm wondering if we know how to give them the stuff to put in the MLS. So if we gave that to them first, and then when they, after they put in the MLS, then we could.
Right. So for those of you online, and again, every office operates differently. So for the offices where people, where their MLS, and we'll have another talk about the whole MLS thing. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine, though. We were talking earlier because the challenge for one of the agents here was that they were trying to do the SkySlope entering, but because it hadn't been put in the MLS yet, it was causing issues. So if that's your case, then turn in your stuff to them first so they can get in the MLS, and then you can do the SkySlope, you know. But it depends on how you're doing it. And Colette, if it works for you the other way.
It makes SkySlope for us easier,
right,
because we're
right.
all
And again, one of the reasons we're doing this is that we're just trying to show you how you can save time in your overall business. So if something is working very well for you, I don't want you to change something that's going to be stressful for you. I want you to know the system, and then you're able to kind of view it and see what's going to help you, what's going to save you time, because there are so many features here that will, and it's going to be different for different people. And again, like we were talking about earlier, one of the reasons we're talking about SkySlope, and if it takes you 45 minutes to gather everything to turn it in for somebody else to put it into SkySlope, your time would be better, calling up some clients or potential clients and prospecting and talking to, showing homes so you can, help people buy and sell. Your time is not better spent doing admin duties. So the whole point of SkySlope is it's automating things to take away admin duties from you. So that's what we're doing here. So but I very strongly feel it needs to go into the MLS first. But again, if something else is working for you, no problem. If you don't have a problem doing it the way you're doing it.
And what happens too is because we have the Circle Pix system, which is a whole nother system. If I always give them one photo, but what I've been having them do lately is enter it in as incomplete.
Right.
And that way I can load all the pictures in and then hit the go button.
Yes.
And then Circle Pix only has to create all its stuff once, not twice.
Yes. And the Circle Pix thing is going to be replaced a lot by the new web platform that we'll be launching, which is going to have even more fun stuff that's automated for you, which is going to be really cool. But that's a good point. Like things can go into the MLS.
That in
MLS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool. I mean, we remember the days where you couldn't upload the photos. Like here in Maine, we couldn't upload the photos before until you had submitted the listing. So it was this mad rush to get all the photos uploaded. Now you can do it when it's incomplete. You can upload all your photos, and then you can hit the go button.
Yes.
So one way or the other, it's just if you choose to do it with the MLS number, it's going to auto-populate some fields for you, save you some data entry. If you choose to do it the other way, again, up to you. There may be some listings that your client has decided not to put it in the MLS for a couple of weeks and do it as a pocket listing, and that's fine too. So that's why MLS is not a required field. Street number, let's just keep making these up. There we go. And then I like to use the tab button because I can go a lot faster with the tab button. You'll notice I don't use a mouse because I can't use a mouse to save my life. Let's see, test street. And I love how it asks for the zip first, because by doing this, it asks for the zip. That's a required field because you see the asterisk there. When I tab, then it automatically fills out the state, the city, and the county for me. I don't have to look it up, which is really handy because, I mean, if you've ever listed something, we shouldn't be listing things out of our area, but sometimes we do. You don't want to, guess wrong on the county because there are some that are close. So it'll do that for you. You don't have to use the area button. The listing agent, you're probably just going to have just you listed here. I'm going to have everybody, so let me just find myself.
So what's the area for? In town?
Some places, well, when you're dealing with bigger urban areas like LA, they may have different areas that they've programmed as a company. We're in an area where, the one zip code per town for the most part, and gosh, in the Bangor area, one zip code actually covers multiple towns. So a little bit different here. All right, sorry, it takes me a little, I should just start typing my name and then there we go, duh, okay. Save myself some time. The CoList is what we were talking about before. If you are co-listing with someone, the beauty of this is one person enters it. The way that we used to do, like say you were just co-listing with another broker in your office, the person who's going to be listed as primary in the MLS is usually the person who's going to enter it into the system. And then you list the other person, and then they have access to the same information that you do. So if you're, counting on your CoList to upload some docs, they can do that. All right, so
they go on their SkySlope,
it will show up to them as well, and that way you can share that responsibility in whatever manner you have decided together to do so. The type is really important because, again, we have multiple states here. Right now we're in Maine, so I'm going to choose Maine listing, but you'll see there's residential list, leasing, Vermont listing, New Hampshire, land listing. Okay, these are going to be different checklists. Bank-owned property relocation listing, that's an important one. Massachusetts, and commercial listing. This is how it's going to choose what the checklist is that you're going to see. So it's very, very important that you select the correct one.
Can you have multiple, like main listing and relocation?
No. So great question. So the question was, for those of you online, can you have multiples? Could you do like relocation and main listing? No, right. So you need to go ahead and choose the one that really dominates. No, I would choose, if it's a relocation one that's come through like Cardis from Jocelyn, choose relocation, please, because then she has got different requirements on there that are going to be on that checklist. So good question, good question. So list price, of course, I make everything 200,000. There we go. Year built. For year built for land, obviously not built, just enter like 9999. Then it's obvious that's not a real date. So they can tell, but it is a required field. So 0000, if you've been taught something different, whatever you've been told to enter, just enter something that's not going to look like a real date. The source, I do recommend, it is a required field. This is a great way to keep track because you can run a report as to where your clients came from. Okay, so if you don't have another system that's keeping track of that for you, what we had talked about in an earlier meeting is also you can be really specific. So say you did a Facebook campaign for home values. Then, I would choose, first I have to choose other. There is an other category here. So I can choose other, and then I can enter the details, Facebook campaign, home values, and then I can keep track of how many people I actually closed with that particular campaign. So kind of handy to track your return on investment for those types of things. And again, the only reason this is taking more than 6 to 7 minutes is because I'm doing all this talking in between. So
it's 45 minutes.
Right. Everybody, I know. Everyone uses it. And it's funny. We were laughing about that because it's never 30, it's never an hour, it's never 35. Everybody says 45. But again, take a little time. It's kind of like a listing. When you are doing a listing appointment, the more prep you can do with your listing clients, setting their expectations, letting them know how it's going to go, that's going to save you time over the life of that listing. And when you get to it going under contract, it's all that prep work that really, really saves you time. The commission splits here, you're going to put those in however you have them split in the MLS. Okay, so I'm not going to put, if I have a 6% listing, I'm not going to put 6%. The percentages I'm giving are just for demo purposes. I'm not going to put 6% there. I'm going to put the amount that I'm planning on keeping. And then on the sales side, I'm going to put the amount that I'm offering in the MLS, whatever that co-broke is that I'm offering. That's up to you. And if you end up getting both sides, that'll be changed when it moves to a transaction anyway. So don't worry about that.
So you don't have to go back and change it.
No, you don't. It'll get changed by itself. So great question. Yeah, if you end up getting both sides, you don't have to come in here and correct anything. This is what you're offering. You're going to get both, and you may change it. Maybe you do a special deal where if you get both, you knock a point off or something. Then you'll do that at that end, so not a problem. No, come on in. All right, so list date and, of course, expiration date. Those are pretty self-explanatory. They have these handy-dandy little calendars for you, so they're pretty easy to use. This little field here, additional commission breakdown information. If you're doing some kind of strange thing with it, maybe you're co-broking and you're doing some weird split, just type it out long form. That's actually a paragraph. Type it out long form, and that way accounting can see that, and and you'll remember it as well because you put it in here. If you're doing, if you're doing referral agent and a referral amount, you can enter that information into here. Doesn't happen as often. And then just click the next button. So, okay, now back to another time saver here. Once I click the next button, you'll see that it's going to give me the basics of the listing right up here. I'm representing the seller, and it gives me this email address. So the first thing I want you to do is right-click on that email address and choose Copy Email Address. And then go to your contact database and paste that in as an alternate email for your client. Because the cool thing here is that you're going to be able to forward any email to that address, and it's going to automatically, if you have an attached document, it's going to put it right into the documents for that particular listing in SkySlope.
That's the best feature.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, it is one of the best features, and it's a huge. It doesn't name it, right? But it will come in, and you'll see it. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. Now I want to put it on the checklist. Yeah. But instead of having to print or save and then upload and do all of that, the other agent finally, gets something back to you, or the client gets you the rest of maybe they had some items to complete on the seller property disclosure. They finally got it back to you. They emailed it to you, perhaps, and you can go ahead and forward that email to this address, and it will automatically put it in the Documents tab, which isn't showing up right now. We'll see that in a moment, of here, and you can pop it into the checklist without having to go through the time of getting to the office, printing, scanning. Because I have people who aren't doing things electronically, and they are. They're getting the email, printing it, scanning it, uploading it. That's a lot of wasted time. This makes it so much easier. The reason that I put it in my contact database as an alternate email, and in the custom email, you can choose custom. It says work, home. Emails always have different types. One is custom. It'll let you type SkySlope. Plus you'll be able to tell because they all end in @skyslope.com. But then it makes it, when you put it under the client's name, so say it was Linda B. I used this example before. My client is Linda B, and I'm going to go ahead and all I have to do is type. I don't have to remember this test street 99999 @skyslope.com. I'm just going to type in Linda B, and it's going to pop up as one of my options, and I just choose the one I want to forward it to. It just makes it go so much quicker, and it enables you to do it from your phone as well. Because of course you want your contact database to be synced with your phone. You could be waiting for your clients to show up so you can show them property, and you get something you need to do. You can just forward it while you're waiting for your clients to that email address, and then it's there for you when you get back to your office. So that is a huge time savings right there. So we'll start with that part. Now you'll notice the seller or the landlord is the only part that is the required field. Home warranty and miscellaneous is not required. One of the cool things about SkySlope is as you use it, the more you use it, it's going to start building an address book for you, and it will remember the contact information. So if you're doing the same person, poor Jane Doe sells a lot of property. Here, I'll pick this one because that's a real, we'll do Janet just to be different. All I do is type her name in, and it's going to fill in her contact info for me. Now, if it's the first time I've done business with Janet, the supposed client here, then I, of course, would type in her information. One thing I wanted to point out, if this was a relocation from Cardis or USAA, one of the ones that comes from Jocelyn, then you would not want to put the email address. The only reason I say that, we're going to try to keep reinforcing that with training, is that when you're done, when this goes under contract and it closes, the back-end system, the accounting system, Profit Power, I believe it's called, is going to send out a request for a review, a testimonial for you, and get that. The survey, yeah. It's going to do that automatically. When you're dealing with the Cardis group, with the USAA and the other relocation things that come from Jocelyn, they have their own version of that. So what's been happening is if you put the email address in here, it crosses over to Profit Power, and then the automatic one comes out from the Maciello group first. Exactly. And people are filling that one out, and they're not filling out the one from Cardis for the relocation. And it's very important, because to keep up our status in referrals so that we can continue to get the good referrals from that group, those have to go in. And we don't want your clients to have to do it twice. So that's the only time that you don't do that. Otherwise, it's not a required field, because there's the 0.001% of the population that does not have email. But otherwise, I would recommend putting it in there. I know. And I used to get this all the time where people would say, well, my clients don't use email. I'm like, baloney. Most people actually, and my question is, do you have access to email? When I'm speaking with clients, do you have access to email? And then, but also it's a very valid question, what's your preferred method of contact? Because some people simply don't want to do it. But if they have access to email, I want their email address, mainly because if we are in a negotiating scenario and they've gone to Florida, I want to be able to send them something electronically that they can sign, So I want to definitely have that information. So again, if you have them already in there, it'll do that. One thing to note is if you're doing, once I save this for Janet here, say, we also had another person on the deed. So we had 2 sellers here. I would just click new seller and I would enter that information. So don't try to enter 2 people at once, 2 names here. They are done individually, but it gives you the opportunity. I sold one once, we had 5 sellers. I'm sure some of you guys have had that scenario before. Lots of fun. Siblings, yep, you betcha. And now home warranty, if you're gonna do it, you might as well put the information in here if your seller has chosen to do that. Miscellaneous contacts, I mainly would use in a landlord situation. If the seller wanted me to contact the tenants for showings, I would put them in here. And that way I have them. Because again, you can access this from your browser on your phone. So you don't have to I don't have to drive back to the office to get my file, to look something up because I didn't bring it with me. I can access it on my phone. And this is why I say you're saving yourself at least 2 hours a week, because that drive time used to kill us, having to go back and forth for signatures and go back and forth for information. All right, then I'm just going to click submit. And once I do that, the rest of the tabs up here are going to show up. So it's going to automatically go to the checklist, and you'll see anything labeled in blue is required. And then there's all the if applicables. Now, a lot of these if applicables, and these checklists are being currently reviewed and will be updated. Okay, so one of the recommendations that we were talking about earlier is that we label everything with the exact title of the form, which makes it easier for you to find. So that's going to be a time savings once that's complete. That is under process right now. So that is being taken care of. And that makes it a lot easier when you're uploading documents to find it. So that will be a time savings in and of itself. And then you'll notice there is the documents log right here. So again, your options for getting documents in here, you can even fax it, which is a little odd, but you actually could fax it to yourself. There's a little way to do that. I don't think anybody should ever use a fax machine as long as they live. I know people who deal with banks have to, but yeah, someday they'll learn. You could email it straight to this email address, and it would, again, that would put it right here in this documents list that you see down here, and it's ready for you. And again, what I always like to keep it myself. I use Dropbox. If I was going to scan paper, which I never did, but I would save it to my own Dropbox, and then I would upload it from there. Rather than have to look up this and go to the scanner. That's, again, why we put it into our phone first. So if you wanted to scan it to yourself, you could just pull it up on your phone and see the address.
If they do make, of course, they make scan apps for phones, so that I've had to in a couple situations
Yes.
on the road,
Scan.
snap a picture of it, scan it,
Yes.
and then zip it right to the.
Good point. So for those of you online, there are scanning apps on your phone. You could snap a picture of it, and you could send it directly to this email address and be done with it.
More than once in situations.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really handy when you go back and they have or you're at their listing appointment and they have a copy of the survey, or some things where you don't, we used to have to take those copies of all the stuff they had, driveway permits, miscellaneous road agreements, and then take it to the office, scan it, get our copies, bring it back to them. Scanning apps are wonderful, and there's tons of them. Use Google Scan Apps, or go onto your App Store or Google Play, search Scan Apps, and they'll all pop up. I use Tiny Scanner. I use the free version.
Yeah, me too.
And a lot of them are free. I've never paid for it, and it works great. Those are also really good when you go to town office and you need getting copies of all the stuff. Yeah, we used to have to pay them. And remember, some of them were charging like $2 a page. Yeah, so it's kind of handy.
Just take a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Mails it to wherever you want.
Yeah, and I know like Tiny Scanner connects to Dropbox, which I use, so I can just download it right away, rename it, put it right in the file folder for Dropbox, and then it's there, and I don't have to do anything else with it. But you can also click the export button and email it right to here. And that's where the email, putting it in the contact database, makes a difference, because you're not going to remember this when you're at town office, but you can go ahead and you can just type in the person's name, and both email addresses you have in there are going to pop up. You choose the one you want. So it works out really well. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. All right, so let's say though I had this on I didn't scan it to myself. I needed to upload it. I'm just going to click the upload documents, and I'm going to choose my test documents here, and I'm going to bring in a couple of them. And it's just going to go ahead and it's going to upload those straight away, and then they're right there for me. So this is the fun part, and again, this will change as the checklists are being revised to make it even easier for you guys. So I'm excited that that's in process. I'm going to click the split button, and this is, most people, again, you have to kind of do at least 3 or 4 of these, and then people are like, wow, I love that. And again, once we have everything renamed with the exact title of the document, it'll make the split process a lot easier. Please excuse that some of these documents are going to have the branding from my previous agency, which actually is no longer in existence. So please excuse that. I've had these test docs around for a long time. I need to create some new ones. This is the real estate brokerage relationship form for Maine. That's not in there, so I'm just going to type brokerage. And then it pops up, and I click it, and that goes from page 1 to 1. I like how it automatically then changes the next one to 2, so it's saving you some time again. And I can click this down button. This is the lead paint addendum. I'll just type lead. There it is. I'm going to click on that. 2 to 2. Thank goodness they put that back down to 1 page again. We'll ignore that one. Property disclosure. And right there, seller property disclosure. Of course, that one's now been named in Maine to just property disclosure. I don't know why they changed the name, but they did. And that, of course, is 3 pages, so 3, 4, and 5. And then, and again, I'm just using my down arrow here, my exclusive right to sell. And there that is, and that, of course, is 2 pages. I'm going to stop right there, but you just keep going with that. And once we have all of those, the form titles matched up perfectly with the checklist, it'll make it quicker. If you can't see it and you couldn't quite remember the title of something, you can actually use this little plus button here and make it bigger to see what the title, because sometimes you have forms that are not the norm. There's some special form you had to use and you might not remember what it is. So you can always use that plus sign. Once you've got everything in there, then you just click split and assign, and I like how it gives you a high five basically and says, congratulations, nice job. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my checklist. But it really does start to flow. You'll see there's not a lot of information you type in for a listing. Your transactions are going to have a little more, and those are going to take you about 10 minutes to get everything in there. Because transactions, there's a lot of if this and if not that, so there's a lot of if applicables on a transaction, because it really depends on, are you representing both sides? Are you representing one side? Is it a condo? Is it a multi-unit? There's so many other things that are involved in that. And so anything that shows up as red is, of course, pending review. And I could see it if I just want to click on this little paperclip here. I can go ahead and I can view the form if I want to check out something and make sure I did it right. It is important that you make sure that you put everything into the correct slot. You can't just upload the whole thing into the top slot, because again, that's going to just waste somebody's time, and they're going to, or your time too, because they're going to have to write back to you and go, I need you to split it up. And like in this case, I forgot the deed. So I'm going to go ahead. I can click the attach button here because I actually uploaded it. It just wasn't in that one packet. It's right here, and I can click assign, and it'll pop it right into that slot. So that's kind of handy too. So you could do them one at a time by clicking the attach, but it's very, very handy to scan the whole packet to yourself and have it all as one. But sometimes when I do electronically, I had them as individual forms. So I would upload multiple individual forms and just click the attach button. Yes, you had a question?
Is there a way to say you pressed assign for the wrong button? Is there
Yes.
a way after it's already accepted? Like if they thought it was the right form, but it was
The wrong
the
form.
wrong
You can
one?
delete it.
You should be able to delete it. Like say I put the wrong deed in here, even if it was here, I'm going to click accept because I actually have the power to do this. So let's just test that out right now. So the question is, once it's accepted, can you get it out of there?
Right.
And you'll notice the little delete sign went away.
Right.
But if I click on the, let's click on this, no. Okay, so that's a change. However, what you could do then is, even if you have something in the slot and it was the wrong one, I put the wrong deed, oopsie, it didn't get noticed for whatever reason, I can go ahead and I can click attach. The people doing the reviewing could remove it for you. We like not to remove things, but if it's the wrong form for the wrong client, best to have them remove it for you, and they can certainly do that. But I can go ahead and I could upload the correct one and I can attach it. You can have multiple items in the same slot, you know.
So if you were to reattach the appropriate doc, it wouldn't kick out the one that was previously there.
No, it would not.
It would just file on top of it.
Right.
But the secretary would have to.
Right. I would ask the reviewer when you get your you get your communication from them, whoever's handling the reviewing for your office. I would say, well, I put the wrong deed in. Can you take it out? Because you'll notice that because I'm an admin, I can click unaccept. You're not going to have the unaccept button. I can click unaccept, and when I do that, I get the little delete button again.
But you can also leave a note.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you attach the correct one, you could go ahead in this slot. I could attach the right one, put your note in here. Oops, I put in the wrong deed. I just uploaded the correct one. Can you delete the one for so-and-so? And then make sure you click the save button. Okay, but it's really best. What we noticed is that that's not going to trigger anything for them. If you did it like all at once before it was reviewed, the notes work really well. If you just put a note in here, you would think, and we're trying to get the SkySlope to fix that as well. If I just put a note in here without uploading another document, the reviewer isn't going to know that they have a note.
So that doesn't flag anything.
Right, but if I upload the correct one, and like Colette said, I put in a note, they will see that note. So that works out well.
Because that doc will be in review.
Exactly. And I would not recommend, like say you had a change to your exclusive right to sell. You had an extension on it. Do not take out the old one. We need to see the paper trail. Just keep putting in, the newest one, the change to it. Same thing with seller property disclosures. The challenge there is if you're having your TMAs upload the seller property disclosures to the MLS for you, and that's how they're getting them, then you may want to just make sure. But when there's a change to the seller property disclosures, often if it's something that was truly missing or something that changed, like say after the inspection contingency, something changed, then now there is radon. We actually have to update those in the MLS, and then you want to update them here as well. In that case, I like the paper trail. I don't like removing one from the other. If it's something where they forgot the field creation and you had the information, it just wasn't on there. Technically, what I need to tell you is that every change needs to have an initial on it from the seller. Okay. But I know that sometimes, say you forgot a checkbox, I know that people are just going to change the checkbox. I will leave that up to you. I'm not, but and I like kind of collecting that information ahead of time because I really like to type it up so it's just a lot more legible when it is on the MLS. And again, that solves a lot of issues. That protects your client when it's typed versus handwritten, so that there can't be, I didn't understand what that meant because I couldn't read the handwriting. Because again, everything's fine until it's not. Something goes wrong, and then the buyer wants to sue the seller. And you will get named in that. So I would not recommend that. All right, so let's say we got this whole checklist done. That goes off to review. But again, this is another time saver. This is why you're going to review your docs before you stick them in here, so that you don't have the back and forth. But we're all going to miss things. And that's why the review is not a gotcha moment with the people doing the reviewing. They're helping you. It's the help. Let's keep you out of real estate jail. That's why we do this compliance system. It's a good thing. I would much rather have the reviewers in the office catch something than somebody else catch it. Okay, so it really, really helps to have this. So please don't be offended when you get something back and it says, oh, we still need this, that, or the other. That's just to help you, just to keep your paperwork complete, have it all done and protect you in the long run. The log here is kind of a neat feature. And again, this is why we put that email address into your contact database. When your seller emails you, you talked on the phone. I always like to follow up phone calls with an email. I talked with my seller about a price adjustment. They agreed. I'm emailing them, letting them know, here's a copy of it. It's going to come to you soon through my electronic signature program. I just wanted to reiterate what we talked about on the phone. We're going to adjust the price. And I never say reduce to a seller. Adjust the price to $195 in order to make sure it's competitive in the market. Just please hit reply to confirm. So I like to do that to get that written confirmation of what we talked about. So now I've covered myself on our phone conversation and on the email, and then I'm gonna blind carbon copy their reply to that email address, and that's going to pop that email into this log. And when when we go under contract and the other agent sends me something, or they ask this question or that question, or the title company, I'm going to forward it to this email address, and that's going to put it in the log. So in my email, I don't have 50 zillion folders for each and every client. I have one folder labeled 1-client emails, because I can search by their email address and pull up everything if I had to. But I have already forwarded to their particular SkySlope account anything that had to do with their listing or their purchase. And there's a log of it here. The beauty of this is, heaven forbid you were ever mentioned in a complaint. One of the things the Real Estate Commission makes you do is print a giant book of all your communication. Everything comes into play. Another reason is you may not be the person involved in the complaint. It might be the agent on the other side. The Real Estate Commission is going to want all of your stuff as well. So having this log is very, very handy, and you can print the entire log and every single email that is a part of it. So this is another system that it saves you. If you take the time, because it takes, what, 3 seconds to forward something? And the reason it takes 3 seconds is because you've already put that email address in your contact database. You know, you don't have to look it up. It really is a good idea. You also, after, say you just had a phone call and you didn't forward up with an email, you can come here at the end of the day, click enter note, put the, what you talked about on the phone, put it in there. Okay. You could email this log to your designated broker if you had to. So it really does help. It's also going to show you when somebody else enters into SkySlope and does a review, those things are going to show up in here. When the email you get that shows what's missing, those are going to show up in here. So the log really just logs in every single thing. All right. Another thing that I really wanted to show you today, and this is being created right now for the whole company, is the tasks. The TMAs have been using this for a while for themselves to keep track of things in SkySlope, but they're creating a task list for listings and for transactions. And you have the ability to create your own. Say you have 10 things you do for every single listing, or 20 things you do for every single transaction. You could actually create your own. But I want to show you why this is such a great idea. We used to, I don't know about you, but we used to have those giant whiteboards in a transaction. It had the, this date and that date and what we had to do and make sure. When I started, we used notebooks, and every day I would have to take out the notebook for every client, look through it, see what needed to be done that day and take care of it. This is like an assistant in a box. Okay, so it's going to save you time. You can import, they call it a template. Import a template here under tasks. And I'm going to choose, now this is a listing one, so there'll be a drop-down menu. You could create your own and then import that, but we're going to have company-wide ones for people to use. So this is my VIP listing template. I'm going to click import, and it's going to use the dates from the listing I just entered and put all these things. So check with seller for renewal. That's not going to be till December 17th. So I set it so that it was going to, 14 days before the listing expires, I'm going to get a reminder to check with them for a renewal of the listing. And again, once this goes under contract and all that, these tasks will just go away and get out of your way. Send listing activity to report to the seller. Let's see. Let me sort by, there we go. We'll put it in the correct order here. Call seller with an update. I'll probably do that once every, install the lockbox. I say I did that. I'm just going to click install lockbox. It's going to go away onto the completed thing. Call for sign install. Let's see, I did that already. That's going to go away. Send the MLS sheet to the seller. I like to do that just so that they can check it for accuracy. I'd rather, now I'm going to have already checked it, but I like them to see rather than wait 2 weeks and have them say, I saw this online and I don't like that. I'd rather, and I don't ever say, just tell me what you think. I always say, check it for accuracy, because it's important that they know on the MLS, a lot of these things are drop-down fields. We don't get to write anything we want in some of these places. So I'm going to go through here and just click off all the things that I want to do. And the handy thing is, in the morning, and you can get in the habit of doing this, I can come in to SkySlope first thing in the morning, and I can click right here on tasks and reminders, and it's going to show me all of the tasks that are due.
Do they prompt you, or do you have to go into there to see what's?
Well, so that's a great question. Does it prompt you, or do you have to go into here? If you set something up as a reminder, it will email you. So you can have it send you an email. The challenge with the emails, you want to use them more sparingly, because you don't want to, usually what happens if everything is set up as an email to you, you know how email goes, and we get a little bit overwhelmed with the volume of email, so things can get lost. But if you take 5 minutes every morning to log into SkySlope, check your things, see what's due. If it's overdue, it would show up in red. But it's like an assistant in a box. Instead of your assistant going, hey, Kristen, did you call the seller with that update? It's right there. And the way these reminders and tasks are set up is, you'll see there's 3 call with updates here, because I can set it up so that this task is done, shows up due 7 days from the last time that I completed it. So if I click complete these, they're for different listings. And again, once you click the checkbox, it goes away. But once I click, call seller with update on July 3rd, I do it on July 3rd, then the next call seller with update is going to come a week after that. So it's based on the dates that you put it in. Now, the one flaw with this that we're trying to lobby SkySlope to fix is that there is no field in SkySlope for the inspection contingency deadline. I would like them to add that field, because once they do that, and I call them every month with my suggestions, and I recommend everybody does that. You can call them or email them with your suggestions, because they do listen to all of that, and they do make regular updates on the system. Once they add that field, we can add that into here, that you'll get a reminder like 3 days before the inspection contingency deadline. Just so that you don't lose track of dates, because that would be a terrible feeling if you somehow lost track of that and didn't act. So that's the only thing. But the other cool thing about this is once you've got this set up, right down here at the bottom, this is in the tasks and reminders field. You'll see this sync with iCal would work for Apple and other systems as well, actually. Outlook and Google Calendar. Anything that's in here will go on your calendar if you sync it there. The one thing they're fixing for us, and this did go to their development team, I could also, within the particular listing, I could add my own task and reminder. So if I go back, let's see, what did I call that one? If I go back to this one that I created earlier, I can add myself in the tasks. Once it lets me click on that, there we go. I can go ahead and add my own reminder for the inspection contingency. So I could click new task here. It's not automatic right now, but I can create it. You'll see there's tasks and reminders. Right now I would make that a reminder, which does come as an email. And I would say, inspection contingency deadline approaching. And I would choose to choose a specific date right here, sorry. And let's say that, I want, the deadline is the 20th. I'm going to send this to myself on the 18th. And I'm going to send it right here and click save, and that will go ahead and send me that email on that particular date. Right now, the reason I say do it as a reminder rather than a task is that when you do this, even if you have it all synced, because you only have to sync it once, then all of your tasks should always sync. But if I do it as a separate date, it's not syncing for some reason to the calendar, but they're working on fixing that. Yes?
When you complete a task, is it going to go on?
Let's find out. Good question. So the question is, when I complete a task, does it go to my log? Let's see, because I did, let's see, I'm going to complete calling seller with update right here. It does also, you see this view all? I can always come to the log and I can view all completed tasks, but that's really curious if it goes to the log as well. So let's find out. Yes, it does.
Great.
So,
are you able to click it and make notes on it?
nope, looks like it just comes up with a
What's
task.
that enter note button?
I could enter my own note, right?
Yeah.
I could enter my, so the question was, are you able to click on that call seller with update completed and make a note? But as Colette pointed out, I could just click enter note, and that's where I would enter what we talked about. Say I called and the seller was concerned about this, that, or the other. I could click on that and go ahead and make that note. So this kind of, that's why I call SkySlope Assistant in a Box, because you don't have to pay an assistant, you don't have to pay workers' comp, you don't have to do all that stuff, but it will remind you of things, and it's, you know, getting used to doing things on the go. You know, everybody used to show up in the office. We used to have to do a lot of driving back and forth to get things. Oh, I didn't bring that folder home with me. I didn't bring this folder home with me. You remember this? It was really annoying. You don't need to do that. You can have everything in here. So whether you're going to have the TMAs do a portion of this or all of it or however you do it, I really want you to understand how you can use this for your own benefit, especially the tasks and reminders. So the task lists are coming very shortly. Those are being worked on. The checklists are also being improved to make it even easier. But is this making sense where you see that you can save hours during a week by utilizing this? Okay.
What about the I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, on the checklist, when they're under contract, it would be great if they could put the appraiser in there, because right now we have to go to other contacts and put it in, and I always forget.
Okay, so having
and then they have to chase me.
Okay, okay.
Because that's required.
Yeah.
It is required for the MLS. So
Yes.
appraiser in SkySlope would be handy.
Yes.
Because you could put it in the miscellaneous contacts in SkySlope.
Well, that's what we're
That's where
doing
you're
now, but
But a field, a separate field.
Yes.
Okay, that's
This
so.
is required.
I will add that to my list of things that I request from SkySlope. Please do contact them as well and say, you know, having an appraiser field would be lovely. It would be nice if they could have, if the appraiser field could include two fields, so that we could do the name and the number. You know, but you can search like in Maine, you can search the number by
MLS.
putting the name. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great point, Colette. Adding the appraiser as a field. Yes. Oh, wait, sorry.
Go ahead. You had mentioned templates.
Mhm.
Are they going to be creating templates that we can import?
Yes.
They are.
Yes, the
Okay.
task and reminder templates are being created. They were just going through the lists, and you know, I wrote lots of people brainstormed their ideas, and then making it you know, work for the difference, because it might be different for different areas.
Yeah.
Also for teams, though, you know, the nice thing is you could create say you're on a team, so you guys for your team, you could create your own template and customize it to what your team does specifically, and then you share it with your other team members. So you as an agent can choose to share your template with specific people in the company. So that's kind of handy as well. One thing it doesn't do is you couldn't take the company template, copy it, and then just adjust it. It doesn't let you do that at this point in time. We've requested that as well.
So you can't modify it.
You
just have to create your own.
Yeah. You create your own. And it doesn't take too long. And in fact, I should probably just show you that really quickly. Yeah.
I'd like to create like a listing template. Because what I'm thinking is, if I go in to enter or to send off documents through DigiSign, it always says import template.
So that's okay. So good question. Okay, so he's talking about DigiSign and template. Those are two different things. Okay. So we've got the task and reminders templates. The DigiSign templates. What that would be, it's kind of like when we used to use DocuSign, and some people haven't, but some people have. You could create a template that would auto tag different fields for you, and that can be handy. I don't care for the way that works in DigiSign, because I like to start in ZipForms, do all my documents at once, have them DigiSigned as a whole package, and it doesn't pull in the templates for that. The templates work for, say you forgot to do the affiliated business agreement form, and you just wanted to do that one. Then you could apply the template, because those templates are in here for that particular form.
Just that particular document.
Yeah, and it would self-tag.
Okay.
But I find like DigiSign is so much quicker in tagging the documents than DocuSign ever was, that it doesn't take very long to tag it myself. But that's a good question.
That answers my question.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was referring to.
The signature templates are different from the task and reminder templates. Yeah, task and reminders templates are part of the Assistant in a Box feature. The DigiSign is for self-tagging things. You know, and it could be handy. The reason I never used the self-tagging the templates even back when I used other e-signature platforms is that it wasn't always accurate. And I didn't like that. I don't like surprises. I would rather tag it myself and go through that process. And what I like about the DigiSign is that you can tag it and you get to toggle back and forth between the clients. So you can tag each page at once. when with DocuSign you had to pick the person first, and you would tag the whole thing for the one person and then come back up to the top and tag it for the next person, and you might miss something. So I like the back and forth of DigiSign. But if you wanted to, we'll just take a couple more moments here to create your own task list for your team, or say you have a partnership or something like that. I would just come on in here, and you see how there's two tabs under tasks and reminders. There's tasks and templates. So you want to make sure you click on the templates tab if you're creating your own. And give it a moment. And then I would click on create list, and I have to give it a name. So you can call it, I don't know, my transaction template. Say it was for transactions. And click the little save icon. It takes just a minute for that to register. The name will change up here once it has registered. There we go. And then it's just going through, and you've got, again, tasks and reminders. So if it's task, say it's a transaction, and I want the first thing I'm going to do is, send, congratulation letter to client with dates. I like doing that. I have a format I send. It's a congratulations, we're under contract. Here's the important dates from your contract. Here's your next step. Whatever. It would be different for buyers and sellers, of course. And I would do that 0 days after. So I can choose the number of days. I can choose whether it's before, after, or on an event. So in this case, I would probably do, on. And then I can choose what. So this would be the acceptance date is what we call the effective date. So I would do this the minute it goes under contract. Maybe I want to do it 1 day after. So let's see. Maybe it's easier for me. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. I'm going to do it 1 day after, give myself 24 hours at least before I put together that letter, and then I would save that. And once I save that, that'll pop in here. And when I apply this template to my transaction, it's going to use the dates that I've entered into SkySlope to add it to that. And again, then whatever your next thing is, oops, didn't want to do that. New task. So I'm going to click new task for the next one. So you can take like a weekend and come up with your own list if you want to, or if you want to wait till the ones for the company go out so you can kind of see the ideas. And then, because you may not want to do all the things that are on that, or you may want to do it differently. You may have special processes. It has this ability, and taking a little time again to set things up ahead of time just saves you oogles of time at the end. So this is making sense? All right, I'm glad we're able to have people in person here. It's much better than me sitting in my home office doing it just on a webinar. I want to open it up to the people online as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your questions or chat. I think it gives me a little reminder here if somebody is using the chat feature. All right, and I know I apologize for going over the time here, but I appreciate all you guys coming in person and appreciate all you guys being online here as well. And again, we did record this, so we will have this available. It will go out as soon as I can get that edited. We'll send that out as well so people can have it. All righty, thank you. Thank you very much, guys. All right.